Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 35. Hello, True Health Seekers. Today's guest is Angus Nelson. Angus works with executives of the world's largest companies as a speaker, coach, and facilitator. He's spoken at the corporate headquarters for Walmart, Whole Foods, Coke, Adobe, and Swisscom. His podcast is called Up in Your Business, and it was recognized as top 20 business podcasts of 2015 from Inc.com. His book is called Love's Compass: How Do You Recover After a Lost Relationship? I'm really excited to bring you this interview because everything that Angus talks about was so motivational. I learned so much from him. He talks about the power of your mindset and shifting it into a place of gratitude so that you can enjoy your life and just squeeze the most amount of happiness that you can. And through that, you become more effective, you reach your goals, and you make stronger connections with those around you. So enjoy today's podcast. And if you'd like any of the links to what Angus does or his free ebook that he offers our listeners, please go to the show notes of this podcast episode. You'll find those links there. Are you looking to optimize your health? Looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com. And one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program. Our next guest is a real inspiration to me. He wrote the book Love's Compass: How to Recover After a Lost Relationship. And I know everyone who's listening to this podcast has gone through heartbreak. Maybe it was in high school, maybe it was in college, maybe it was later in your life, but everyone's gone through some kind of heartbreak. And so the topic of that book is so appealing to me because when I lost several relationships in my life, at the time I felt like my life was over and I had to go through healing. But now looking back, I'm so thankful I went through those experiences. I'm so grateful because it has shaped me into the person I am now. And if I hadn't gone through those experiences, I wouldn't have found my wonderful husband and had the most amazing child with him and had the life I'm so grateful for now. Angus also teaches about how you can utilize a strategy of gratitude to improve your health, to improve your overall well-being. Angus, I'm so happy that you're here on the show to share this with us.
Oh, my pleasure, Ashley. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you are this international speaker. You've been helping thousands and thousands of people improve their well-being, improve their mindset, improve their overall sense of self and becoming more effective in every area of their life. How did you get started in this?
I got started through my own crap, Ashley.
Like all of us.
Right? I created my own chaos. Short story is, about 15 years ago, I was in a marriage. I was running a nonprofit organization. I was fully committed to the cause, but so much so that I attached my identity and my value to that cause. And as such, I became a workaholic. I started to experience difficulties in my marriage. I started to cope with the stress and the strain of the work that I was doing and the relationships at home. And I turned to addiction. And I was involved in pornography, and I turned to alcohol, and then that led me into becoming promiscuous. And of course, that didn't go well with my marriage. So before long, the organization failed after 9/11. Funding dried up. The city came in. They wanted to build a new parking ramp. We didn't have enough money to recreate. That went away. A part of me died, my vision, my dream, and everything that I was working so hard for. In addition, the spiral of my emotional elements obviously played out into my marriage. That went into divorce. And I spent the next 3 years in kind of a spiritual schizophrenia, as I like to call it. On one hand, I knew that I had this background and pedigree of working in ministry and seeing really cool things happen in people's lives. And on the other side, looking at my own life and saying, I'm disqualified from that because look at the terrible person I've become. And at the end of those 3 years, I had been reading like a mofo. I was reading books and I was attending seminars and I was just filling my head and my heart with as much information as I could. And I found this one teacher down in Huntsville, Alabama, who had a holistic approach to spirituality, living life, etc. And I said, you know what? I'm putting my house on the market. I'm going to go sit on this guy for a year. And from that, I had my whole life just rewired. And I started to see myself differently and started to see the world differently. And of course, I met a young lady and I ended up getting married. And all of that's documented in my book, Love's Compass. So that's kind of how the quick story kind of catches up to speed.
I love that you have taken everything that you've gone through, learned these lessons, and then applied them to teach others, because I can find so much similarity in my life, looking at your life, the conflict that you had. Like on one hand, I'm this great person. On the other hand, I'm doing all these horrible things, and that inner conflict. And I know from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that one of the hardest things that people go through is having internal conflict, and they don't even know consciously what's going on. They just feel conflicted. They'll say things like, well, I want to do this, but I want this, or like golden handcuffs. I hate my job, but it's what pays the bills. And what people often don't realize is by putting themselves through that stress day in, day out, it plays a role on our physical health. It wears down our body physically and causes stress causes long-term health issues. Dr. Molly Niedermeyer, a naturopathic physician of over 31 years who was the dean of Bastyr University, was on the show, and she shared with me that, health is mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. She says that healing something physical is actually the easiest thing to do. Healing something spiritual is the hardest thing to do. And it sounds
Absolutely.
like you help people with that mental, emotional, and spiritual healing, which, you can exercise, eat healthy, and take supplements for your physical health, but at the end of the day, we need to look at feeding our soul.
And Ashley, I work with corporate executives, people who have gone to some of the top schools in the land. They make top dollar working with these top companies. And it's really interesting because when you pull back the veil, almost every one of them are struggling with some of the same elements that anyone else is struggling with. And furthermore, because of their positioning, they've learned how to try and cope and to keep a lot of those emotional and mental, elements out of the picture, because we don't talk about shame, we don't talk about vulnerability, we don't talk about any of these things. And yet, when given the opportunity to feel safe and to open up and to divulge some of those arenas, they suddenly become liberated to be far more bold and far more capable of achieving even greater performance.
Because it was their mindset that was holding them back. Now, you have spoken at corporate headquarters for Walmart, for Whole Foods, for Coke, and Adobe, Swisscom. Adobe's just down the street from me. I live near Seattle, but I just a personal curiosity, when
Yeah.
you went into Walmart versus Whole Foods, what did you feel a difference in energy, in intention, and purpose between the people of Walmart and the people of Whole Foods?
I Okay, so the comparison is obvious between those two. I would say there's an element of it's frugal. All of Walmart's mindset follows the spirit of the founders. You walk in those offices, it's nothing super fancy. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's kind of like walking into one of the Walmart stores just with cubicles and some TV monitors. It's just a more reserved, conservative approach to business, and that's what it is. They're just doing work, and there's a lot of good people there. You go over to Whole Foods, it's more granola, and people, are taking on that appearance, and they look the part. So for them to come in shorts and khakis or a flannel or whatever they want, yeah, it is what it is. I don't know why I said khakis. That's probably not the case. More like cargo shorts. And so it's a little more free spirited. So the what you would think on the outside, it's cliche. It's absolutely on the inside too.
Yeah, it's amazing how the head of a company will really influence the culture of all the employees. I like seeing that we as individuals, we're living our life individually, but when we get together in community, so when we're working for a company, we need to be aware of the corporate culture to make sure that's in alignment with who we are. Otherwise, you have to change yourself to be in alignment with it,
Hmm.
and that can cause conflict.
Yeah.
Well, I was really, really excited for you to share about how gratitude can improve our well being, because that's something that we're going about our busy lives, we're stressed out, and I really don't think that we're taught to be grateful. I guess there's one day a year, Thanksgiving, where we all sit around the dinner table, and my mom, you say, okay, everyone, everyone gets a turn. You all have to say what you're grateful for. And that's, for me, growing up, that was the only time we were really ever taught to express our gratitude.
Hmm.
And looking around, I have a lot of friends who are, they're in tough situations, but they have so much they could be grateful for, and they could really, really benefit from tapping into that gratitude. So, why is having an attitude of gratitude so important, and how does it play a role in our health and well being?
It's really interesting that in our westernized society here in particularly the US, we have a quest for something, a goal, a size of home, a level of clout, a particular vehicle, our car. We always have these goals, right? And that's what we're taught. The American dream, we're taught to aspire for something, and every one of those things is something in the future. And then there's this other element we kind of alluded to about talking about what has happened and that being our past. And our past has all of our performance. And most of the time, the things we remember are not the good things. We typically remember the bad things and we rehearse them time and time again. You close your eyes at night and you might think of something that happened to you or something that you did to someone else. Or worse, the things we do to ourselves. And we carry shame and blame and victim mentality in through our everyday life. And here's the thing we don't focus on. We find it very difficult to settle into today and being present. And I think the biggest key to gratitude is finding that place. Aspirations and goals are really cool to say, it'd really be nice if. But here's the thing. What if your mindset on what your goal is short of what your potential is? What if you're actually limiting yourself to that goal? I found that the freedom and liberty that I have in being present and living in the now helps me to build motivation and momentum towards throwing myself even more fully into the activities that I get to do today. My passion comes alive because if I'm questing to lose 100 pounds, if I'm questing to be the championship, UFC fighter, if I'm, whatever my goal is, every day that I'm not that, I'm a failure. And there's underlying tones and key components that we will sabotage opportunity because we still see ourselves as less than, that we're lacking. And then the people around us, as they move up the ladder and they seem to be succeeding in an area of their life, what we think subconsciously is, I'm not like that guy. I'm not like this one. And then we throw ourselves into social media, look at Facebook, and see other people having great marriages, great lives, great goals, great jobs. And we're like, holy hell, this sucks. And we don't realize that that level of static and chaos starts to drill down into the inner core of us that makes us think we don't deserve, we're not capable, and we'll never get to. And we have to let go and cut the umbilical cord of all the comparison and all of the attachments to the past and to the future and learn how to live in today. That's the core of gratitude.
I love that you talked about how when we're not present to what we are grateful for and when we're kind of chasing that carrot, we lose sight of opportunities that could be right here, right now. My dad had when he was alive, he ran a business in Canada, a very successful home entertainment company called Nuance. It was a speaker company. And he stayed in touch with all of his employees even after they moved on to other jobs. He really, really, really cared about all of his, it was like his extended family. And one day, an old sales manager called him crying, and my dad was like, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And he said, "I'm in my car. We've lost our house. We're homeless. And my wife, my kids were in my car, and I am at the end of my rope. I don't know what to do with my life." And my dad remembered that this man always was focusing on what he didn't have and was always complaining about what he didn't have. And my dad said to him, "What about your great aunt that lives 3 hours away? Didn't she tell you a month ago? You told me she told you a month ago that she didn't want to go to an old folks home. And if you would come take care of her, she would give you her house. And you could live in her house with her." And he went, "Oh my gosh, I totally forgot that." Like he had deleted the opportunity that was in front of him that was perfect for him and his family because he was so focused on oh, I'm a loser. Oh, I don't have I don't have this big house. Oh, so when we are choosing these thoughts, and the thing is, a lot of us, because we're not trained, like you trained yourself through all your studying and working with your mentor, you trained yourself how to be in charge of your thinking. But a lot of us aren't trained that way. So we think our thoughts control us and our thoughts are happening to us. So these thoughts come in and out of our mind, like, oh, I don't have that. Like you look at Facebook, oh, I don't have that big house I want, or I don't have that, my job sucks, or I didn't get that promotion, or whatever. Or for me, I've been for years putting myself down around my health, because even though I was improving my health, I wasn't at my goal. I hadn't reached the goal yet, so therefore I was bad and wrong. And what was really funny is we had a licensed counselor, Stephen Flansbaum, on the show, and he shared that if you looked at the relationship you have with yourself, it would be abusive. That we are the most abusive to ourselves. And when I heard that, it was like a light bulb went off. And since then, I have been taking control of my thoughts. And when my thoughts come, when I start thinking negatively about myself, I catch myself and go, wait a second. I need to start treating myself with love, because you could call the cops on me. I'm abusing myself.
And Ashley, there's so much truth to that, because, if you follow the lines of the continuum of looking into a mirror at yourself and following where those emotions take you, if you don't like yourself, you're going to follow to these lines of, well, why should anyone else like me? And if you take it to a spiritual context, then why would God like me? And we don't realize how we negate and disqualify ourselves strictly out of how we perceive that person in the mirror first. And what we don't understand is that person in the mirror is one of the most creative beings ever to walk the face of the planet. That you are beautifully made and handcrafted in a way that impacts the people around you through your words, your actions, through your care, and through your love. That you are at interplay with the world around you to bring good. And instead, you're watching everyone else and being reactive to that instead of proactive to be generous in the gift that you've already been given. So instead, that mindset of lack brings us to a place of fear, brings us to a place of comparison, and brings us to a place of sabotage. But when you can change that mindset to understand all that you already have, in that gratitude comes generosity. And now, instead of you trying to make decisions in your life, running away from the things you don't want, You change your mindset to run towards the things that you do want. And that changes the game.
I love it. I love it because when we start to analyze our values, so like let's say money, for example, we can begin to see the away froms, like, oh, money's so hard to earn. I can never catch up. And you start to like notice your thoughts around
Mm-hmm.
something. Like notice your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. And I use money because it's so universal. But and everyone has. I've never met someone who has 100% towards motivation around money. Everyone I've met has a certain amount, unless they've done a lot of personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people who have a certain percentage of away from motivation around money, so away from thoughts where they have negative thoughts about themselves and how they can create money, or about how other people have money. And if we can stop ourselves and go, okay, what do I want instead of what I don't want? So around health, I could beat myself up all day long, but I can start to, and this is what I've been doing, is stop and be grateful for what I have accomplished so far. And
Mm-hmm.
then I get really excited because I go, wow, I have come a long way. Like I can stop beating myself up. I've come a long way. And then take it one step further and go, okay, where do I want to go now? What positive direction do I want to go, instead of thinking of all the things I don't want?
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any techniques or little mind tricks for people who even though they really, really want to do this, keep catching themselves in their old patterns? Do you have any tricks or tools that we can do on an ongoing basis to help us?
Sure. So I'll give you two premises. One is understanding this that our three greatest needs in humankind are to know that we're unconditionally loved, that we are valued, that we have worth, and that we're not alone. Unconditional love is being able to be around people that don't judge you, that don't tear you down, that don't, um, bring the negative vibes, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, you don't want people who just kiss you up and tell you anything you want to hear. You want people who have the permission to have the tough conversations and ask you the hard questions. That's when you know that you've got a community. The second thing is knowing you have value, worth, or another word is you have purpose. And identifying to your purpose and the things that bring you into a place of passion and a place of flow, things that become effortless, things that you would do if nobody paid you, stuff that just is the natural, effortless byproduct of your existence. Like, oh my gosh, that's when life becomes easy. And then the third thing is, knowing that you're not alone. You know, when you have purpose and you have people around you that, you can identify, there's something really powerful when somebody says, me too, that I'm not alone. And no matter what you're going through and where you're at, if you know that you're not alone, it can give you the courage to talk about the things that you're wrestling with. And once you bring those things to light, they have no more power over you. That's one thing. The second thing is, in our mindsets, I have this thing I call, it's the manhood matrix, but I don't mean that from manhood being male. I just mean it from mankind. It's just, this is the way the acronym fit. So bear with me. So the first one is your mindset. When you see from that mindset of seeing that I'm a victim of the world, or I'm someone who's at interplay with the world, going back to the terminology we used before, it's the cliche of I'm either choosing to be a thermostat or a thermometer. I'm either reacting to the temperature in the room and becoming the same, or I am taking ownership of my surroundings and I'm setting the temperature and the bar for the people around me. Like, that's at the core of that mindset, which takes you to the next part, which is your attitude. That's this element of generosity versus lack. When I have lack, I create chaos, and in my chaos, I get really comfortable. And anything that comes to me that offers me opportunity outside of my chaos, I will retreat from, because I want to stay in my chaos, because at least I know what to expect. I like it here. I like my addiction. It's my pet. I like my broken relationships, because then I know I'm validating the way that I feel about myself. If I feel like I should be rejected, I'll make sure I get rejected. Or the other side is generosity, that there's nothing for me to prove, nothing for me to gain. I have all that I need to be who I am, and now I want to give it to the world. Which takes you to your nature. We shake someone's hands, we say, hey, what do you do? And we talk about our performance. And we never really tell somebody, hey, who are you? What makes you feel alive? Like when we got on the call today, I said, what's the thing you're most passionate about in the last 6 months? Like, your children. Like, those things become an understanding of your nature, and they paint the fabric and color of your life. And once you get to that and understanding those 3 points, you get to this next point, which I believe is a truly spiritual element, and that is humility. In humility is this place where you finally see the world bigger than yourself, that your gifts, your talents, and your skills have opportunity to be poured out into the people around you. And from that, you'll start to observe yourself, kind of like you were saying before. In third person, words can be coming out your mouth. And you can say, baby, I'm so sorry. What I just said, I was an absolute exaggeration. That was a lie. That's not really how it happened. Hey, I totally lost my temper there. I'm a douchebag. I am so sorry. That was my bad. And you start self-editing yourself as you are in your own existence. And from that level of observation, you start to see opportunity. Places where your skills, your talents, and gifts are most directly powerful into making a difference and doing good, which finally pushes you to the D, which is to dare. Most of us never step out to fulfill our dreams because we're labeling it with the fear of failure. Or we're labeling it with, yeah, well, so-and-so stepped out and it was like a bullseye was on its back and everybody tried to tear them down. Well, yeah, if you step out and dare because you're a narcissist, because you're trying to fill some kind of void, because you're power hungry, well, of course they're going to get torn down. But someone who does it through this method, all of a sudden comes from this place of generosity. Now it's like, oh my gosh, that person's authentic, they're genuine, and they're real. And I want to rally behind them, and I want to cheer and be a part of what they're doing. And it fuels momentum to accomplish the dare. When you operate from that kind of existence, life becomes far more effortless and far more healthy relationally as well as physically. And that's when life really becomes enjoyable.
Every single point could be a book that you could write.
I'm working on it.
Okay, great.
I'm working on it.
Excellent. Do you talk about this in your book, Love's Compass?
So I started discovering some of this in Love's Compass. I wrote Love's Compass as kind of a style of narrative nonfiction. So it's more story and less like points, although I do kind of step aside and offer some contribution in that realm. What I didn't want to do is write a book that's like 3 points and a PowerPoint, you know? Here's your silver bullet, 7 ways, 6 steps, you know, blah, 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 because I think that's all BS. I wrote this book to tell my story because I know as I tell my story, you'll find yours. I believe that life prepares you for what life is preparing for you. All of life is this weird, cool, serendipitous flow that it organically creates itself. Grass grows and doesn't strive, and it will grow through concrete. Wind blows and you can't stop the wind, and yet you can only harness it to create power, but you can't stop it. The sun's going to rise tomorrow and it's going to set at the end of the day. There's nothing you can do to stop that. There's power and energy around all of us, and when we can start seeing our life is a byproduct of that, that there's ebb and flow in our own lives, then we can understand that the stories in this book that I wrote are just part of my story, but they will ignite parts of your story. And that you will see and understand that some of the elements that you're struggling with are tools and resources you're going to be able to pull from to then impact the world. I remember somebody told me their grandma actually said this, and they said, good stories happen to people that can share them. And the only way you can get to a point of sharing is when you have the courage and the humility and you know your identity so that you can take that transparency and give it to those around you.
Well, I'm sure inspired, and you're leaving me wanting more. So I'm like, I'm like, man, I want to read your books when they come out. I'm really excited. I'm on your website right now, which is angusnelson.com. I'm looking that you're going to be offering a coaching service that's coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
You have an email list people can sign up for so that they can become aware of what you're up to. Also, I really like that you have a podcast. I'm seeing that there's episode 38, How to Get Better at Happiness.
Yep.
That I'm all about that. So check out listeners, check out his podcast. Let's see, it is Up in Your Business is the name of your podcast.
Building you to do business better.
And it was recognized as a top 20 business podcast in 2015 in Inc.com. Wow. Very cool. So for those who've been inspired by what you've said and like me are kind of craving more to learn more from you, what would be the best way to begin learning more from you?
Well, you can follow along on Twitter. Follow the Twitters and the interwebs at Angus Nelson. You can email me if you have questions or you want to learn more. Hello at Angus Nelson. Obviously, you can tap into the podcasts and you can come to my website. But I prepared a little gift for your listeners. When I'm interviewing all the influencers that I've been influencing, I'm finding a trend of two major things that change people's lives. One is becoming a self-learner. Every one of these people have iterated and innovated their careers as they've continued to move forward. And they've had to equip themselves to get through everything from imposter syndrome to knowing technologies of innovation and the speed in which technology is changing. And the second thing is the power of relationships, building their network in ways that are genuine, in ways that are powerful, and in ways that are value-driven, that they give instead of take. And so now, between those two things, I built a little ebook on networking and how to connect with people. And it states that 65% of Americans, particularly, struggle as introverts. And they feel very uncomfortable around networking. So I made this little book called Networking with Effectiveness and Credibility. And I created a little page here for your listeners at angusnelson.com/learn true health.
Oh, very cool. Well, excellent. Well, all the links to everything Angus is doing is going to be in the show notes of this podcast. I've been an extrovert my whole life, but my husband is an introvert, and I've been watching that, introverts are so intelligent and they're really great one-on-one or in small groups, and they're so creative. And then here I am, the extrovert. I could be totally charged up in front of a room of 1,000 people, and just love it. I just feed off of being part of the energy. And so, but what's really interesting is the Myers-Briggs, which is the way in which you can kind of you can do this fill out this form and measure where you are on the scale. And hanging out with my husband for all the years that we've been married since 2008, I've actually gone more introverted on the Myers-Briggs. So I'm starting to catch myself going, wow, I'm really experiencing what it's like to feel more like an introvert. But you can actually, what's interesting is through personal growth, through probably also through the activities and reading your book, your free ebook, you can actually, if you're an introvert, you can actually grow your skills as an extrovert and become more comfortable doing extroverted activities. And likewise, if you're too much of an extrovert, you can start to get in the shoes of introverts, which, you always want to have behavioral flexibility and learning from everyone.
So here's something really powerful, and I'm glad you brought up Myers-Briggs. I'm an EFP, by the way. The element of knowing who you are through Myers-Briggs, DISC profile, Colby A index, et cetera, et cetera. The power of that is communication. One is to say, oh, this is who I am, and then you make excuses. I can't help it. I'm an extrovert. And the real power is actually in understanding all of the other 15 designs of personality. And now when you communicate, you take that flexibility and you make yourself present the thing you're trying to communicate in a way other people can receive it. And that's when the real power comes. And so, like my networking book, I wrote it in a way that it gives value to someone who's introverted. Most people say introverted don't have people skills. I love that you said that, it's great on one-on-one. Where real introversion is where they get their power, where they get their energy, is by being a little bit more withdrawn. And then they gain their power, and now they can come and re-engage. And they have powerful people skills, and they're sensitive to other people, which is why I believe that this style of networking really empowers them to flourish, because it's about offering value, it's about being generous, and it's about sowing into other people, expecting nothing in return. And it's amazing how serendipitously opportunities will present themselves.
Absolutely. I'm really motivated and moved by everything you've taught here. I'm excited about hearing about what are you going to be doing in the future? What are your plans for the future? I see there says a coming soon for coaching. Where are you taking this?
So I'm working on a book called Empowering Work. I'm taking all of this stuff that I've done on, which started off as a nonprofit, and then now working to, human relationships and dynamics, and now into corporate. And I'm taking all of that and tying it into elements of leadership for the future of work. And we don't even have time for me to go into all of that. But taking a look at where all the data is pointing and how people have to take ownership of their careers as independent contractors is going to be more and more. It's going to be far more ubiquitous, giving people both opportunity as well as threat in the fact that now you really have to manage your brand and you have to know more. But with that also comes a whole lot of emotional IQ. And understanding on the other side, from leadership, from management, from reputation management, all of those different elements is being able to equip people to be successful in the future. And so I'm working towards that. And I hustled my podcast. I hustled, the things that I've done through my own networks to the point that I think they're tired of me. They're like, oh, there's Angus yapping again. And I finally got the courage, and I grew up in the Midwest. So for me to put myself out there, Midwest people are like, if you dress really super sharp, or if you name drop, or if you, try and talk a big talk, they look down upon you because you're all sorts of whatever negative things they want to think.
Tall poppy syndrome.
Tall poppy, you're standing out from the crowd?
Yeah, that in Australia they have a saying called "Don't be a tall poppy," because if you try to excel and stand out, they'll cut you down.
There you go. So that goes back to the dare, right? And that was my Midwest sensibility or values or whatever. And what I've realized is that's debilitating. And if you have a gift and you don't have the courage to believe in your gift, then how is the world going to believe in it? And the more I've been convinced that what I have to offer is powerful and inspiring and will change lives, the more audacious and bold that I'm becoming, to where I've been stepping out and I'm going on other people's podcasts and I'm going to be writing for other people's blogs. And so all of this is kind of unfolding before me. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning. Somebody I totally want to introduce you to got me into this. After we get off this call, I'm going to introduce you to a guy that does 5 a.m. Miracle podcast, Jeff Sanders. He's fantastic. Anyway, he inspired me to get up early to be more productive, and I'm getting more stuff done now than I did a year ago, and I'm just completely throwing myself into my gift to change the world. And so, what that's going to look like, or it's yet to be seen,
right?
But it's going to happen, and it's going to be beautiful.
You're a living example of what happens when you focus on where you're going instead of what you don't want and what you don't have in the moment. When you are grateful for, when you're completely plugged into your gratitude in the moment. I experienced that, waking up full of energy, full of life, so on fire about my life, even though I didn't have, the perfect car, the perfect body, the perfect house, whatever, right? All those things that, we thought when we were growing up, when I'm an adult, I'm going to have all this. And it's like, when I got plugged into that gratitude and that mindset of being focusing on the quests I'm on and the fun I can have in the moment, but not holding myself against myself, with all the things I hadn't accomplished yet. When I did that, I had so much energy. And it's amazing because it's a mindset. It's the mind body connection. That's a mindset. That's a mental, emotional, spiritual. And yet it had a complete direct effect on my physical health, my physical energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're living it. You're doing it. You're sharing it. You're teaching it. I'm really excited to see where you go with this. Everyone needs to go to angusnelson.com and sign up for your email list and listen to your podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I definitely want to have you back on the show, especially when your book comes out. I feel that, the mission you're on is it going to help so many people and has already helped so many people. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ashley.
Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.